Welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host, Deborah Bailey. When I started this podcast in 2008, I was on a mission to promote women business owners, creatives, and entrepreneurs. In each episode, my guests provide resources, valuable tips, and inspiration. Women Entrepreneurs Radio is about showing women how to harness their natural strength to achieve success on their own terms. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host, Deborah Bailey. I'm so glad that you could join us today. And I'm going to introduce my guest, Jenn Adamson. And she is an executive level mindset and manifestation coach, #1 international bestselling author, registered nurse, and she'll be a featured speaker at Tedx Huntington Beach in September of 2023. So prior to coaching, Jenn consulted Fortune 500 companies in sustainability practices. And after 8 years of climbing the corporate ladder, she felt the pull to pivot and align into her purpose. So today, she specializes in empowering leaders to access their flow so they can live an abundant, innovative, and joyful life without the hustle. And Jenn brings a unique perspective to the coaching practice, combining her expertise in healthcare and science with her passion for personal growth and transformation. So welcome to the show, Jenn.
Thank you, Deb. It's so awesome to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm really excited to, hear more about your work and everything. So, before we get more into that, if you could just share a little bit about how you got started and the work that you're doing.
Yes. Oh, I actually really love sharing this story because every time I share it, someone says I have some truth in that, I see a little part of me in that.
Mm-hmm.
So, from the bio you had shared about 10 or 12 years ago, goodness gracious, it's been about a decade, or maybe a little over. I was very much climbing the corporate ladder and reaching the proverbial mountaintop of corporate success.
Mm-hmm.
I was reaching all of those goals, manifesting a lot of things like the titles, the accolades, the promotions. And in my personal life, from the outside looking in, it looked pretty perfect. I was in I quote, perfect marriage.
Mm-hmm.
I was going on vacations. I had my dream car, my dream house, all of the dream appliances inside and furnishings. But what ended up happening is I wasn't in tune to myself, and I wasn't really sure of who I was as a person and as an individual. And over years, because I was in corporate America for about 8 years, what I found myself doing is wondering why I was feeling this very, very deep sense of dissatisfaction. It actually led to me waking up in the middle of the night for about 6 months straight, like clockwork. I'd wake up, my heart would be pounding out of my chest, my sheets would be drenched with sweat, and it felt like I was having a heart attack. And I know that seems really surprising and really dramatic, and it was a very intense situation. I really was so disconnected to myself that I really didn't know what was happening. But the one thing that just kept repeating over and over to itself, it was this voice or this knowing of, you are not doing what you're meant to be doing. And so I was scared of that. I was scared of that. I grew up in a very traditional household. I'm second generation Italian. My dad was in the Army. He graduated from West Point. So I came with this very deeply entrenched mindset of you work hard and you work. That is how you gain your success. And I don't care how hard you struggle, you get there and you get to the top, and you never quit. You never take a break, because that's considered lazy and you'll miss out on your opportunities. And so that was this is surprising to say, but from a very young age, that was ingrained in me. And, for much of my life, my teachers, my mentors, my parents, they rewarded that. We often, and it's not surprising, we kind of look around in society and our busyness and our achievements And our hard work, no matter how hard it really took, even if we're compromising other things on the side that are really important, we reward that and we applaud that. And so what I discovered is that over time, it really took a moment of wanting to take my own life away, where I finally realized, okay, something is wrong and I need to start seeking help for this, that I realized I was putting so much of my worth or my sense of worth in my level of productivity and my achievements. And as you know, we are all innately worthy. We come into this earth already worthy. If you look at, I have a daughter, she's 6, almost 6, and she doesn't need to do anything for her to be worthy. And so that was a big aha moment for me, that I had to learn to incorporate and embody in myself. And so that took many years, and I still find myself unpacking it from time to time. And that's kind of what led me to this journey here, where now I get to coach women who are in the executive seat, are very high up there and have reached a certain level of success in their careers. And they're finding themselves in very similar situations that I was in about 10 years ago, where they thought, hey, I thought if I reached this level of success, it would bring me joy and it would bring me happiness, but it's actually not. And I get that beautiful opportunity to help them discover what it is that really lights them up, and how it's actually simpler than you think it is.
Wow. Well, that's quite the journey. And I think what you're saying, a lot of people also have those kind of experiences where it's pretty much, go, go, go and do all these things. And then people often end up getting burnt out or frustrated or not understanding why they were driven, in these directions. And then maybe it hasn't led them to where they want to be. Yeah, that opens up other things down the road where they're disillusioned or just kind of feeling like they just don't know what they should do with their lives. So it's always best for people to hopefully discover these things a little earlier on the path. And that doesn't mean that you can't make these discoveries older in your life, later in your life, but just at some point that you realize that you can go in these other directions.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's just something that's great for people to hear if they feel challenged in the same way. So, we're gonna, kind of ease into our topic, and you're going to talk about 3 money energy leaks for women in business. So, let's start with that. What is, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I love this topic. So where I get really lit up is showing women that things don't have to be always hard, right? Like we don't actually have to struggle and work hard and burn ourselves out to reach success. Because don't get me wrong, I love to achieve. I am one who definitely loves the I guess the adrenaline and the big dopamine, serotonin rush that I get every time that I reach a goal. But what I have learned too is that it doesn't need to be hard. We don't need to burn ourselves out, because ultimately our health, our relationships, our lives are so important, right? And so one of the biggest things that I love teaching women is how to learn to build their relationship with money in a way where it becomes easy to actually receive money, where it becomes easy to sign on clients, where it becomes easy to see money flowing into your life and specifically your business. And so the way I look at energy leaks is, a lot of people might have questions about, well, what is an energy leak? So I'm a nurse, and so I love to take the science to spirituality. And if you take things at their most basic level, like I'm looking at my computer screen right now, my computer screen at its most basic level is made out of atoms. We also are made out of atoms. Everything in this life, matter, is made out of atoms. And when you look at atoms, at the very, very, very small basic component, they're vibrating. They're always moving. And when they're moving, they're attracting other atoms with a similar resonance or frequency. And so when you start to think about that, and then you start to apply it to yourself, you realize, oh, light bulb moment. Okay. So what I put out there really does matter because it will come back to me. And so in its most basic sense, I love to share that science of quantum physics. So when you think of energy leaks, you want to think of it as like, say, for example, it's really hot right now in Colorado, and I turn the air conditioning on because it's hot, but I forgot that I had my window open in the basement. So the air conditioning is running, it's running, but I'm not feeling any different. It's so similar as to like, I'm doing all these strategies, but I'm not seeing any changes. What's going on here? Until I realize, oh yeah, that's right. I left the window open downstairs. So all of that cold air is just going out into this summer right now. No wonder why my house doesn't feel any cooler. No wonder why it's not working. And it's the same thing that we want to look at that same analogy with money, because we all have different relationships with money. Some are positive, some are negative, but it runs the gamut. And so look at an energy leak, first of all, as like where you might have some leaks in your belief system related to money, related to your relationship with money. So are you okay if I go through through the three and then we can...
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
So the first energy leak where I often see many of my clients when I coach them, when I'm first coaching them around money, is the idea of being seen, which can feel really scary, right? Like I know that I still work through this myself, and I'm going to be giving a TED talk in a few months, and I'm working through my own, level of, okay, this is a whole new level. This is a whole new expansion. And so I get to now have this beautiful opportunity to work through being seen in this new light, in this new level. But overall, throughout our journey in entrepreneurship, it is so important to check in with ourselves to see how we're actually feeling about being seen. And what I mean by that is that as entrepreneurs, we have gifts to share with the world. We have unique gifts to share. And that's often why we go into entrepreneurship in the first place, is we realize, hey, this really lights me up. I really enjoy doing this. And I've made an impact in people's lives or in the lives of people in the world. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move forward with this. But it's totally common and normal along the journey that sometimes as we're up leveling or as we're learning a new skill set or as we're reaching a new goal, that we will have some reservations or some resistance around being seen, about sharing our gifts. And so the biggest thing that I like to share with people is knowing and imagining that people are actually praying for you to show up. Like you have a gift to share. And whether it is a unique gift or it's something that is very common, right? Like there are many coaches out there. I'm not the only coach. I fully realize that. Yet I also fully believe that the way that I coach is different than all of the other coaches. And there is service in that, and there is value in that. And there is something that's really important for specific people out there in the world. I understand not everyone is going to resonate, but there are going to be people who are really going to resonate. And it's fun to watch this. Is like you give a talk and there are certain people that are like, hey, that was great. Thank you so much. And then there's others that are like, hey, where do I sign up? That hit me, like that pulled all the heartstrings. But just always checking in with yourself through this journey of asking yourself, what are your reservations with being seen? And so just knowing that it's progress over perfection. Like always, always, always focusing on the progress over the perfection, because I think as high achieving women, myself being included in this category, it can be easy for us to always want to strive for it to be perfect, because in my mind, I want to give out excellent work. I want to put out the most excellent, best version of myself, best version of what I can produce all the time. And sometimes I have to give myself some grace and some compassion when I'm learning a new skill set or when I'm trying to reach a new goal. And so knowing that as we're learning how to be seen in new levels and new lights and new expansion and new territory, that we're always giving ourselves that grace and that compassion of progress over perfection. Because I'm sure you know, Deb, the most important thing is showing up in our business, right? It's not about, it's not always about, okay, I got to do it this way and I got to do it this way. But sometimes, especially when we're starting something new, is just what small 1% action step can I take today?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I think that's really important what you said about the progress over perfection, because we can really get trapped in trying
Yes.
to be perfect.
Oh, big time. Yes. I'm guilty of that myself. Like, how many revisions of this TED Talk am I going to do?
Right.
Yeah. It's a fun process. It's fun. It is absolutely fun. Now that I feel like I've reached this level of like, oh, okay. Now it's like, okay. When I find myself getting to that point where I'm like, ooh, okay, take a step back, Jen, take a breath, go for a walk.
That's good advice.
It is, right? Thank you.
Definitely good advice. So please share more with us.
Yeah. So the second energy leak is asking yourself the question of, where might you be feeling resistance in marketing or sales? And I love talking about sales. I love talking about sales psychology. I love talking about all of this because obviously we all know as entrepreneurs, business owners, that sales revenue generation is really important in our business. It helps to pay our bills. It helps to keep our doors open. And it helps us to continue to be the amazing providers, service providers, product providers that we are in our communities and in society. And I noticed that I noticed this a lot with women that I first work with, is they fear being too salesy or being too pushy. Like, I don't want to be the salesy person. I don't want to be the pushy person. And I get it. Like, that's not my vibe either. And I have learned over many years lots of different sales strategies and tactics. And some of them are very pushy and some of them don't feel in alignment to people. And to others, it might work. But my idea and my whole philosophy is it's really about looking at sales as this exchange. Remember going back to the gifts that we share as entrepreneurs and business owners, knowing and really valuing and recognizing and celebrating the gifts that we share. And so sometimes that might mean looking at all of the evidence when you're going up to a big sale and you've made the big ask, taking note, whether it's writing it down or just taking a mental note of all of the evidence you have in your life, of all of the amazing results that people have received because you have your doors open right now. And I have seen so many shifts in women when they start to look at sales like that. When we start to look at sales as, this is a gift, this is my offering, and with this very unattached result, right? This very unattached energy to the result of, I don't need the sale, but I would love the sale to come in. So then we can kind of lean back and let that be something where we can actually connect human to human with the other person. Mm-hmm. Because I'm sure you've been on the other side, Deb, where you've been sold to, right? And it feels like, and I don't even like the word sold to, because already I feel my energy. It's like, it's icky energy. And you felt that, right? Like, we've all been there where it's like, oh my gosh, like, how do I get out of this situation? And we don't want to be that person. But I believe me, it took many years in many chances and many practices in the first year of business for me, where I started to be like, oh, okay, here's what it feels like. So don't beat yourself up, right? Like remember, going back, progress over perfection every time, progress over perfection. But learning to actually connect with the human. And so a word that I like to use is actually enrollment. And enrollment is really just a giving and providing something for someone else, whether that is your service or maybe it's a resource, right? Because we also know that not everyone that we're going to meet is going to be a sale right away. Sometimes it's going to take them some time. Sometimes I'm in the process right now of considering a big investment on something for my house. And I've told the person who's been the title of sales representative, hey, I just need some time to think it over. I'm really interested. I'm really interested, but there are a few other things that I just need to put pieces together for my final answer. And it's nice to be on this side because it's like, oh yeah, it's a reminder of it's nothing about that person, right? It is really about, is this a right match now? Or is it a match later down the road? And I like to use the analogy of people are like the cars on the highway. There's going to be some people who are going to exit off the highway to you right away. They're going to be like, oh my gosh, yes, I need you. This is it. This is the answer to my prayers. I've been thinking about this for a really long time. And then there's some people who need to dance in that process of maybe experiencing a few more things. And so learning to kind of take that pressure off of ourselves of this is not about me. This is about me offering a gift, enrolling a person so that they can receive whatever it is that they need. And then it's like almost like this, you trusting that you did everything that you can in your power, and the rest is really out of our hands.
Yeah, that's true. And I think, yeah, we're having those experiences with people who do the hard selling. It does make you think that, oh, I don't want to be that person. But, you're right. You don't have to be that person. Like, I guess we've had so many experiences like that we think that's the only way to sell to people. So that really does a disservice, I think, to all of us, because then we don't want to do that and then we hold back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. So it's always coming back to asking yourself, remember, and this is so true. Like I'm coaching a client right now. It's like, I'm getting to help her see and holding the mirror up of, do you really think you're a very salesy, pushy person? Well, no, I don't. So then trust yourself that what you're doing is actually a gift. It's an offer. And then there is some level of letting that go afterwards to let them make their own decision. Because we never want to come from this place of push. I also made mistakes very, very early in my business too, of trying to kind of hustle into sales. And then it never was a match. It never really was a match. And there was more pieces to pick up after the, so, sometimes you have to do it by trial by error too.
And that makes sense. I totally understand that. Okay, so so what's the third one?
Yeah, and then the third one is probably one of my favorites, and that is overall, what are your personal beliefs that you hold about money? And so I'll share my personal story about money. I grew up with very little means. And so I always was led to believe at a very young age that money was scarce. And this is also where I got, when I started the beginning of this podcast episode with my story, I learned that I had to work really hard to make money. And so, keep in mind that, so many things, right? We get so many beliefs passed down onto us as young children from our caregivers, our teachers, our mentors, our parents. And it's not that, it's not bad. We always have, the beautiful part of this is that we have the choice to choose again. And what I had learned over the years is that, is this idea that money is scarce and I have to work really hard to have abundance something that is serving me and supporting me, or is it actually doing more harm? And over time, I realized it's actually hurting me a lot because I am, my health is suffering. My relationships are being compromised now. And, so learning what the beliefs that you have about money. I often hear too, especially from women, is that maybe it's some form or version of it's really greedy. Oh, no, I can't, I couldn't, I shouldn't, I wouldn't. But the thing is I like to remind women, especially because we are the natural caregivers of this world. Like we really are. And we have such amazing hearts, especially if we've started a business. We've done it. I fully believe that that women in the world are going to change the world. And we as entrepreneurs are going to make massive changes and impact. And so we need to be able to receive abundance, and we need to be able to get cozy up with the idea of, actually, I am deserving of being in overflow. I am deserving to receive money in ample amounts, because the more money that I have, the more good I can do. The more I'm in overflow, the bigger of a blessing I can be in the world. And so changing that mindset from like, oh, no, there's no way I possibly could, to, okay, this feels big, it feels uncomfortable, and I'm willing to choose something differently. I'm willing to make changes with my beliefs about money and my relationship with money, to start getting and creating, it's almost like this very intimate relationship with money, because ultimately money is just energy. It is a very neutral energy. It is not good nor bad. It is just what we make meaning out of it.
Mm. Yeah. And that makes sense, because that's how we look at money, what we think it really is. And then, we add all these meanings to these things, and then it becomes something really uncomfortable a lot of times.
Yes, absolutely.
And that creates more problems for us. So, I think that really is, a wonderful way to look at it, and hopefully a way that people will, get more comfort out of, I think. But why don't you share with us, Jenn, where listeners can find out more about you?
Yeah, so you can visit my website, which is www.jennadamson, and that's Jenn with 2 N's, /podcast. And in there, Deb, I'm giving your listeners a whole bunch of freebies and resources in a one place. So if you go to jennadamson.com/podcast, you'll get to see, you'll get access to my free abundance meditation, my money beliefs meditation, and some other fun things.
Oh, great. So it's jennadamson.com/podcast.
Yes.
Great. Wonderful. Well, we really definitely appreciate that, because I think that the listeners will certainly be able to take that information and see how they can really apply that more to what they're doing, or what they will be hoping to do. For those people who aren't really don't have their businesses set yet, or are making plans, I think it's never too soon to start and to look into what you want to do, and get some good information, before you start out, that you're not just out there trying to figure it out, but you really get as much help and support as you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's great. I really like that. So yeah, you really are sharing such wonderful information. I think that people you really need to pay attention to, because often, money can be really a tough subject for business owners, and definitely I think women, going to business, and all the things that they're trying to think about, not, as we said, not being perfect, but just trying to look at the progress you're making, and to really clear your mind of all the things you may think business is. She said about sales and being salesy and all those things. I think that it can take a big mind shift once you start to get into it and realize it doesn't have to be what you thought.
Absolutely. And remembering that it is just 1% every day, 1% change every day adds to massive transformations over time.
Wow, that sounds really good, because, again, as you were saying earlier, a lot of times people feel they've got to really put so much into it, and I've got to, it's all or nothing, and that's just all that.
Yeah, I know. I was guilty of that myself. And I can really appreciate what you said about starting off with like just kind of doing a check-in with yourself anytime you're about to start something, whether it's your business or a big project or a new goal. Yeah, I love that you said that because checking in with our own value system is worth its weight in gold in so many ways.
Hmm. Right. Yeah, I think that's really important because people don't really know
Mhm.
um, what they should be doing. And they think, as we're saying, they think business may be one way and I have to fit this box that I think it is, as opposed to me following my purpose or following what I know I can bring to the table. And yeah, sometimes it takes a while to get that clarity
Yeah,
going.
it does. But as long as you, I think as long as you do, it's clarity, intention, and patience, right?
Mm,
Intention and patience. I think if you go with those three things, those three ingredients, you can't fail. There's no way. It's a win-win all around.
hmm. Well, that's good to hear. That's really good to hear. And I think it's something that, everybody's listening, could really take something good away and see how they can apply that to what they're doing and maybe see if there's a better way for them to do what they're doing, which is always good for us to find better ways to accomplish these goals. So Jen, this has really been so informative. I really appreciate you sharing your story and also, giving the listeners something to really consider and, sharing, your gifts with the listeners. They can visit your links and also we can have your other links in the show notes as well. So they can definitely, find out more about you and what you're doing. So, yeah, before we wrap up, could you let us know, do you have any final thoughts to share?
Yes, yes, thank you. I love that question. And the thing that's coming to me, I think, is really strongly is making sure you're surrounding yourself with your A team to bring on your best in your A game. This took me a lot of years to realize and to really understand how important it is in entrepreneurship to be around soulful women who are also with a growth mindset, who are celebrating your successes and encouraging you in the times where you feel like you've fallen down. It's really
Mm,
so important to just check in and maybe do a little, just like, how do I feel around certain people? Because I'm sure you know this too, having your own business, Deb, it is quite vulnerable to start something like this. It is, in a sense of the way, our own art form. And we are putting ourselves out there into the world in some way, shape, or form. And so there is that level of vulnerability involved with it. And so always just be cognizant of who you're surrounding yourself with, very supportive people. I think that would be the biggest key takeaway I'd like to leave everyone with today.
that's really great advice because that's important as well to make sure that, the people around you are really the kind of folks that are going to be supportive and positive for what you're doing. And, really, not people who may be particularly negative or just bring something that isn't really helping you and you're not helping them. So, yeah, I totally agree. I think that is key. So, I want to thank you for sharing that, Jen, and thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Deb. This was so fun. Thank you for this. And yeah, I had so much fun doing it.
Great, so did I. So, it's been Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host, Deborah Bailey, and I want to thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you again next time.